Excellent.
It's pretty full.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 hands.
Yeah. I'm going to try this right now.
Cheers.
What are 1 or 2 things that we as parents can start doing right now?
It is so hard, and I wish I knew then when I was raising my kids what I know now.
How do we know when it may be time to seek out professional help?
Who are you? And where are you going? What do you want? Together we'll find the ideal path on the Later Wow Show with your host, Kevin Bemmel.
Welcome to the Way to Wow Show. My guest this week is Cheryl Hirsch, a certified parent coach who draws on a wealth of experience from being a school teacher, a principal, as well as a parent herself. She has an MBA in nonprofit management and a master's in education. She puts the well-being and social emotional adjustment of her clients at the very heart of her work. In addition to her formal education, she's gone through programs at the Ojai Foundation, Conscious Discipline, and the Parent Coaching Institute. Cheryl's going to be talking to us all the way from Austin, Texas, where she lives with her rescue dog, Marty. And believe me, I know rescue dogs. But before we talk with her, we're going to talk with Katie O'Donnell, who's making her 3rd appearance here on the Way to Wow Show. And we're going to have a cocktail because I think every parent needs a cocktail. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would absolutely agree.
Okay,
I don't
good.
have kids myself, but I know that this would help me get through that or enjoy it more. So today we're going to make a traditional whiskey sour, and a little bit of a difference because we're going to use this higher proof whiskey, which is called Corsets, Whips, and Whiskey. It's from Journeyman Distillery in Michigan. It's organic and kosher organic certified as well.
Wow.
So really cool. This is actually a single cask 100% wheat whiskey pick from a store called Cypress Craft Beer and Liquor. So that's out in Cypress. You should go check them out.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're just gonna make this classic whiskey sour. I'm only gonna use 1.5 ounces of this whiskey because it's 126 proof. So it packs that punch that a parent might need at the end of the day, but without having to really go overboard with how many pours you have.
Yeah, wow. That's I like the sound of that proof. So I've heard that the higher the proof, the more flavor in the whiskey. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So you're getting most of your flavor from the barrel itself, and traditionally what all liquor companies will do is they'll proof down to about 40% alcohol. And what you're doing is you're adding water to that, so it's just going to soften the edges, give it a little bit more of a calmer approach to your palate. But if you have it right out of that barrel, it's a flavor explosion. You're going to be able to decipher all these different, really intricate parts of the aging process.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Wow.
Good to
Excellent.
try it. Mm-hmm. You can always add water after your second sip.
Yeah, yeah. Like with an eyedropper, 1 or 2, 3
just
drops.
a little bit, yeah. So our super classic whiskey sour is just lemon, simple whiskey. Shake it up.
Huh?
And
You got a little arm exercise too,
yeah,
right?
you need to get that workout in there. I'm going to add a little soda water as well, just because this is a higher proof whiskey that will also make it a little fresher, a little effervescent.
Oh, good, yeah.
So just a little bit of that.
Wonderful.
And then you're ready to go.
Okay.
So hopefully you will enjoy this and it will make all those parenting hours worth it.
Yeah, right? Well, I mean, my daughter makes the parenting hours worth it, but I will say that it's a challenge sometimes. So.
Wonderful. Here you are.
Oh, excellent.
It's pretty full.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 hands.
Yeah. I'm going to try this right now.
Cheers.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this makes being a parent worthwhile.
Cheers.
Thanks. Okay, I'm going to go do my interview. Thanks, Katie.
See you later.
Cheryl, it's great seeing you again. Been a long time, but I'm so pleased that you are coming on the show. We're going to be talking about a topic I think that is a lot of people are really struggling with. And if I can share just a small anecdote with you that explains why I particularly wanted to have you on the show. I was in a meeting not too long ago with a whole group of people, 30 or 40 of us. And one of the men in the meeting was a father, and he was talking about how bad he felt that because of all the things that had been going on, COVID, et cetera, his daughter was not going to be able to participate in her senior prom the way he had. And he felt a loss because of that. And the nature of the group is, it's a lot of coaches and all that kind of stuff. And they pounced on this poor man. You have to look at the bright side. You have to be positive. And my response was, you know what? He's a parent. Let him feel bad for his daughter, who clearly is not happy about not missing out on all these sort of, rites of passages of her life. I think we have to sort of mourn these a little bit, not to be mawkish. But to me, he was exhibiting just fine parenting. But I assure you, I was in the minority in thinking that. So, and that kind of leads into my first question, which is, how have you seen parenting change over the time that you've been working with parents? Because as I mentioned in your intro, you were a head of school and now you're a parent coach. I mean, it's not just COVID that seems to be driving these changes, right? Tell us a little bit about what you've seen in that regard.
Well, I do want to acknowledge that I haven't been in the school setting for the past couple of years, but before that, I was in the schools for 30 plus years. And I will say that the major change that I saw repeatedly is parents wanting their children to not have any hardship or difficulties. They would want to smooth over every little thing that came a child's way, where we know that is just not the real world and that's not healthy, where our role as educators and parents is to help children get through difficult times, not take them away. So I feel like our job as parents is to raise healthy, thriving, responsible adults, and we need to be able to give them the tools to do that. So when we take away hardships and kids don't learn how to navigate that and realize they're going to be okay and they'll get over it, even though it may be hard, we're actually harming our children.
So that seems to be a little bit counter to what I said about this fellow. Should we acknowledge that our children are going through hardships to them? Oh, this is a tough time, and then work from there? Or do we try and convince them, no, everything that comes into your life is positive, and it's an opportunity for growth? Or what's the best way to handle that?
This is a big conversation, and I just heard a podcast where Susan David, she's an author, and I believe she's a psychologist, was interviewed, and she talked about the tyranny of positivity, which that's what you're talking. Yeah, I love that term, and I'm glad I just learned it so I could share it with you. And that's what the parents were doing to this father. And what we need to do, and I've done a lot of study, I don't want to say a lot, but I have been learning a lot about dealing with emotions and what is a healthy approach. And actually, we want to validate the difficulties, whether he needed to validate what it sounds like he did for his daughter. This is sad, it's hard, and it's a time of loss. And the father was right to acknowledge his own feelings. We don't want to suppress our emotions. That actually causes us harm and can be detrimental to our physical health. So it's really important. That's what we need to say to kids. No, that is hard. It is hard, or that is sad. We want them to be able, and as adults too, to really name the emotion we're seeing and try to get as granular as possible, instead of just saying I'm angry or happy, to really be able to name the emotion and acknowledge it, and know that emotions are fleeting and that we can work through them, and that it's healthy to feel these emotions. So we don't want to bury them or shoo them away, and or tell people, oh, it's going to be okay, it's all da-da-da, and that's a tyranny of positivity. So I think it was great that he was able to acknowledge how he was feeling, and it's a little sad to hear that the people were not supportive of him in that.
Yeah. The tyranny of positivity. I like that. A friend of mine and I talk about toxic positivity. So maybe there's different grades of it, right? So as you work with parents today, what do you find are the most common challenges they face vis-a-vis their children? If they're trying, if the most common challenge parents have is, trying to smooth the way for their children, what are the actual challenges that parents are facing that they need to help their children work through?
It really is a tough question because everybody's situation is a little different and a lot depends on the age of the child. Because as we go through life, there's different things that come our way. So right now during COVID, I just think across the board, it is hard that we're limited in what we can do. We have to respect our family's values and be supportive of those. And I think just the limitations that we have, whether you're 5 years old, and going out and socializing and being with friends through college, I think it's really hard for everyone right now. And I think we just need to acknowledge that. And I think there's a wide range of emotions. I don't know about you, but I'm going through a wide range of emotions during this pandemic. And to acknowledge it and know that that's normal and that's healthy and it's okay.
Okay, so then let's see if we can approach it a different way rather than trying to name the challenges themselves. How, as parents, can we figure out, if that's the right word, that our children are having a problem or a challenge that, especially one that they appear to be ill-equipped to deal with?
So are you asking how do we know if they have a challenge or how to help them deal with the challenge?
Well, so first of all, because look, kids are unhappy sometimes. I see my daughter and, if I asked her, "Are you okay, sweetie?" every time she looked unhappy, she'd want to slap me. She wouldn't. It's against our values, but, but she would want, say, so how can I be more, I'm not sure what the word is, but more careful to approach her when it's more likely to be something that could require help from me?
Okay, so I have a number of answers for that. One is really observation to see, is your child, and some of this is normal, so you have to know what's normal for your child. Are they withdrawing? Is their demeanor changed? And again, yes, children's emotions go up and down, but do you notice that it's more frequent or for a prolonged period of time? Really pay attention to those kind of signals and warnings. And I think we know our children very well, and you can usually tell if there is a change and if it's ongoing. And I didn't do this as a parent, and I just wish I had, and I really recommend it for families, is a family meeting, a weekly family meeting where parents and the children have a time to come together as a family to communicate. And you might share something that you're grateful for, something that a high or low of your week. Also, if the family isn't functioning well, let's talk about it. How can we fix this? So it empowers the children to help become part of the solution and have them have a voice. And it really empowers children, but also that you're working together as a team to figure out solutions. And I think that is a time where families come together and really can do check-ins. And that way, in time, that children will know, that that's a time to share. Of course, parents know that they're available to their child at any time, but it's also a good time to share if they're having a struggle, to check in. And I think sometimes we get busy and we forget to do that, where that family meeting is a dedicated family time for those types of check-in. And again, trying to keep communication open with your child, which is so hard at the different stages, as they get into teens and even middle school, friends become more important. But always to let them know you're there, that you're their support, you love them no matter what, and just letting them know that you are their safety net, all of that does seep in into the voice in their head, that they'll know that you're there, and hopefully they'll feel comfortable coming to you.
So it's interesting. Every Sabbath, we go around the table and we talk about what we're grateful for. But you actually had a couple more pieces to that. Something that just in general that happened during the week, and a challenge that, so add those in as well as, and if you're doing a family meeting is.
It can be, look, I think there's different ways of holding family meetings, and ultimately it's a way to connect, and there's different ways of doing check-ins, and one is, your highs and lows. People sometimes call it roses and thorns. It can be whatever you want to call it. I have a child that I know that calls it her boos and yays. So gratitude, highs and lows, and also, again, for example, a lot of times families have trouble with routines. Let's say the mornings are really hectic, things aren't going well. To bring that up, like, we're really struggling with this, I'm feeling really frustrated, how can we fix it? Or a child's not listening, following instructions. Let's say, let's work this out as a family. And that way the child has input, voice, and that everybody's attention is focused where it needs to be to help, just the family communicate and help things run smoother.
So we've been talking about, I think, things that, parents and within their families can be doing on their own. How do we know when it may be time to seek out professional help?
It's really, really hard. And again, I would look for those signals of a child withdrawing, not eating, lack of sleep, withdrawal. Those are many things to look at. And I do not underestimate children at any age, and I would go speak with them and share, I'm concerned, I've been noticing some things. I'm worried about you. I want you to know I love and support you. How would you feel? Do you feel like you need some outside help? And I would talk to them about it and see what they say.
And what about for parents? How do we? I think it's probably easier for us to figure out if our child needs help, right? But how do we know when we may need some outside help?
I think sometimes when there's an ongoing issue that doesn't seem to be resolved, I feel that oftentimes when parents actually change their behavior and reflect on themselves and change how they're interacting with their child, the child's behavior will often shift unless there are extenuating circumstances. So again, if we're having a lot of power struggles, which are not effective, we feel like things are just not going smoothly, that's where parent coaching comes in, where I help parents look at how they're taking care of themselves, how they can be the best parents they can be. And then sometimes there's deeper issues, healing issues that really need to be resolved. That's where a therapist or a counselor might come in. But oftentimes, if you're open to it, we all can use some outside help here and there. And I think people need to acknowledge that. Sometimes we go to friends, and then sometimes it seems like we need a little bit more than that. And I really respect people when they recognize we're having some difficulty here. I'm not quite sure how to handle this ongoing situation. I could use some outside help. Because intellectually, oftentimes we know, but when it's us, it's sometimes really hard to see the best way forward. So I have a client that she said, she's got older children, and one was coming home, from college. And she said, how is it that I can't see this for myself when it makes so much sense? But I think it's really hard when it's us and we're the ones navigating the situation.
Yeah. Wow. A college-age kid's going home.
It's really hard. It is really, really hard. And I think that's one of the reasons why I got into coaching is it is so hard. And I wish I knew then when I was raising my kids what I know now. And I feel like if I can be there to help people navigate things that would then result in a better future for their child in some way, I really want to be of help, because little things can make such a big difference. And unwittingly, we can really cause harm. And on the other hand, it's so easy to show up for our kids and show them love and stability is what they all need.
Something you said a few minutes ago really resonated with me, and that is, my daughter and I were perpetually getting into typically more petty power struggles, and me being me, I of course blamed her. I always take the high route. But what I found was when a friend of mine, figuratively beat me up enough that I started changing what I was doing, the issue got immeasurably better. And to the point where at one point my daughter came to me and said, I really appreciate that, that you're doing this, Daddy. It's like, talk about a role reversal, right? So what are one or two things that we as parents can start doing right now that will make being parents and make family life better?
Well, again, it kind of depends on the age. For little ones, I want to say routine and consistency and stability. Kids really need that. And when parents feel like they want to be too much of a friend and not set limits, it's actually harmful for kids. They need those limits, they need boundaries, and allow for choices, but choices that work for the parents. Little ones are not decision makers, but you want them to gain independence and that their voice is valued. And so choices are really important, but choices that work. And I think as kids get older, we want them to be, empowered, thriving adults. And so I think we need to allow them to have their voices be heard. So if it's about screen time, before COVID, it's still a thing, but it was such a big item about screen time and what we're doing. And again, it's not so much about the time, but what we're doing on the screens. But work up a contract together. Say, this is a concern. This is why. Be very honest. And then say, so I'm doing this out of love for you, but I want it to be fair. What do you feel like is reasonable? What would be the natural consequences should you not follow this? Curfew, friends, all of that. Let them have their voice. And they will be more likely to follow and, hear you when they are able to feel empowered. And again, I'm not telling for parents just to give up. Parents need to set the boundaries, but get the input of setting those boundaries and limits from your child.
Excellent, excellent. Cheryl, it's all the time we have. I want to spend another 3 or 4 hours, and not because I have a great cocktail in front of me, but because what you say, it makes so much sense and said in such a calm, straightforward manner. Really appreciate you being with us here on the Way to Wow show. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our time together and hope that people found it helpful.
That's our show for this week, folks. Thanks to Katie O'Donnell making her third appearance on the Way to Wow show. Her whiskey sour was out of this world. Let's remember what our parent coach, Cheryl Hirsch, told us. Have a family meeting, a time specifically for expressing what you're grateful for, what good things happen, what such not good things happen, where both you and your children get a chance to express what's going on, what they're struggling with, and you can come up with ideas together for how to move forward to a better place. If you like our show, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. We'd love to get your comments on what you think about the guests we're having and all the other things that go on here on the Way to Wow show. Courage at all times, my friends. Marie, darling, you are still my belle.